Stories like crazy, because everyone has mental health, and everyone has a story, and sometimes they're crazy. Join Lori Lane Murphy and me, Adriana Prosser, as we talk about dealing with, struggling with, and managing mental health with storytellers who want to share their true life story. Get in the conversation with us and talk to us on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe on SoundCloud and iTunes. Now, let's smash some stigma. Joel West is a comedian and mental health advocate. He co-produces a great storytelling event called Dare, the Stories We Thought We'd Never Tell. He's also gained insight from clowning. No, really. Let's hear his story. Hello, and we are joined with Joel West, and
Hey.
You've got a story for us.
I do. So, as you guys know or don't know, as you guys don't know, but you two guys do know, I am a performer, and I often take workshops, and I often perform around the city. But a year ago, I was taking a clown workshop. It was actually, and it's quite a good class. It was called Vaudeville 101, and it's given by Sketchy and Fesso the Clowns, and it's quite a lot of fun, and you have, because clown is, you have to really look into yourself. I got to know the people I was with on a pretty good basis, and you know, it's like you can't bullshit another clown because you have to work with them, and so you have to really trust each other, and so you also get you start to work on your intuition, I think is the word as well. You start to get a feeling about the people you're with, and you know it's working when people do things and you react without thinking about it, and it's the wrong thing, which happens to be the right thing, if you know what I mean. And so we were doing that, and it was perhaps the fourth class, the fourth of six. And it was a lot of fun, and we'd had it was a good workshop, and it was very emotional, and we'd all gone out afterwards, and we were sitting around. And I don't drink personally. I actually just celebrated 23 years sober, clean and sober.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. But we were all hanging out around this really skeevy bar, and silence hit for a second, and I just looked around. And again, I didn't know these people, but I felt knew them, and I just said, just out of curiosity, who around here has a diagnosis? And everybody raised their hand. and at that point, I really knew that I was home, that I belonged, you know, and it was an odd feeling. Not the fact that they all even perhaps said that they were willing to disclose, but the fact that they were willing to disclose, that they didn't feel shame, they didn't feel anything like that they were happy to disclose that to me, and I was just as happy to disclose to them. Not the fact that we all were crazy, but the fact is that we were all crazy together.
Yeah.
Wow. And that, what did that do for you?
Well, what it tells me is that more people than I want to believe, or that I know, have had, and now I hate this term, so please excuse me, I'm going to use they have mental health issues. I've always hated that term. I'm currently at school, and my accommodations counselor said to me, so what do you think about, you know, making safe spaces for people at the university with mental health issues? And I said, well, that's a really tough question, because what you're presuming with just that one question is that somebody with a schizoaffective disorder is exactly the same with type 2 bipolar, is also the same as somebody who's suffering from gender dysphoria, who is also exactly the same as somebody who's suffering from CPTSD. And these are all completely different people who have all completely different needs. And what my answer told me really is that the fact is that we are, as much as we're all the same, as much as we do have similarities, we are all totally different. And you know, maybe we're just all people.
You know, I think that's a beautiful way of looking at it, because I think, you know, I've always thought of mental health is no different than physical health. Obviously, both need to be taken care of. Both need to be issues in both worlds need to be addressed. But what I love about the story is when everybody put their hand up at once it sounds like there was not even a beat in between.
Everyone at that point trusted each other enough that it was seriously not even a question of a beat. It was, this is the way it is.
Right.
And it was again, it was a coming together of people. And again, that tells me this, that the more I stigmatize myself, the more I separate myself from others. And the more I just let myself be Joel, whatever that means, at the moment, then the more chance I have of being with other people. That doesn't mean disclosing everything to everyone all the time. What that means is choosing my times, choosing my moments. But it also means being gentle and you know, taking time and caring enough to share me, but also taking the beats and letting other people making a space so that other people can share themselves with me.
And I think that's beautiful. I think
this is a horrible idea.
I know. I just so everybody knows what's going on, there are two wonderful dogs
that are attacking Adriana right now.
They're feeling really left out because we're all like having like this genuine moment, and they can sense that.
Yes, I know.
And they're just like, the humans are congregating, the humans are tribing up, and we're not a part of that tribe right now.
I know.
And that doesn't feel good. And so
and
they
that's
have inserted
wonderful.
themselves.
But that's so wonderful, and that's so good. But that tells me that dogs are so empathic in so many ways, and they want to be part of.
Yeah, so there's now 2 miniature Dachshunds. One of them's not so mini, trying to take up my lap real estate, and they just wanted to be at the table with you guys. So I mean,
and I think that they were moved by the story.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's the sound of your voice, because it's true.
Gosh, you guys are pshaw.
But I just want to say something else, because I always have more to say. That what I find just listening to you, and just, you know, having the benefit of knowing you outside of this podcast, and that's full disclosure to people who are listening.
No, we do not sleep together.
No. But there has never been a conversation with you that I have not walked away better for.
And I would like to say similar, absolutely, without a question. And
I learn something every time we talk, and I think it was a really wise idea on my part to invite you to tell a story on the podcast.
How kind of you is that, really? And how kind of both of you to have me here. I really appreciate that.
And I feel like I know it's controversial right now, it's that whole space conversation and whatnot, and like, I personally can't get my head around a designated space. Like, I feel like, I hope that it's something like this, where it's making time and space rather than a designated, here's your soapbox, or here's your couch, and whenever you're sitting on it, I know that you're going to need some self-care or something gentle around you. That's great, but I really feel like we can't put those comfy spots in the public so much, as we need to make space in our lives, in our hearts, and our understanding,
and in ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, it's I tell people, and I believe this, that I am a safe space.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I believe that.
So, you know, if you need a safe space, I am a safe space.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting. I actually just took a course I work at the City of Toronto right now, and I took a course called Positive Space Ambassador. And it was focused on LGBT Q2S specifically, but it is making space. It's positive space. It's where you hold space in the world, that around you, that orbit is positive, and that people can come to you rather than a time or a place or a meetup where that's where you keep your feelings hid until you get there,
or a certain piece of geography.
Yeah, that exactly. And that you see my lanyard, it's and that you can see this, and it denotes safe. And that's actually why I got my semicolon tattoo, so that if people are in the know, and if people are looking for that, then they can be like, I see you're a ship at sea that I can be a comrade too.
And that's why I'm getting a tattoo. I've decided finally on what I want. I'm going to live with it for a little while still, and it's going to be on my left arm, and it's going to say, "This is temporary."
Nice.
And then a semicolon.
Oh,
Nice.
lovely.
And it's amazing. I too have the semicolon, and coming back to your story when, asking how many people have a diagnosis and the hands go up, I'm always amazed when I'm at a checkout counter or I'm at a restaurant or I'm meeting new people, how many people either have one or at least know what it is or are planning to get one. So I think we are making progress. We have to believe that we're making progress.
I do.
And the other thing is this, I don't know. See, I've got my own idea what progress is.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead, I have to relinquish what that is sometimes and say, well, you have your own idea, Lori, of progress, and you have your own idea, Adriana, and the two beautiful dogs have their own ideas. No, because they do, and it probably involves a lot of meat. I understand that. But the point is, and lots of treats and running around. But the point is that, oh, they're so cute. But the point is that, I also have to relinquish and keep on what my idea of progress is, but also, when the progress in me meets the progress in both of you, that's when we have progress. It's if I insist on, no, this is what progress is, that's a whole other story.
And therein starts to lie the prejudice and the stigma.
Yes.
Right? And that we have our own personal benchmarks, and it is good that we have like a conventional benchmark for everybody that we need to move towards, like Mental Health Awareness Week.
Yes.
Like, again, for better or for worse, Bell Let's Talk, like movements that are out in the public that we can congregate around in mass, in the masses and whatnot, but that then there's some heavier ones or more personal benchmarks that we need to work towards for progress. And
even I was part of a conversation in the past week where I mentioned to somebody that I have I think I used the term because out in the public, in the world, you have to use the language that people use. So I said that I have dealing with some mental health issues, and they said, "Oh, you mean you're a consumer?"
What?
Yes, I've heard this.
And you've heard this term.
Yes.
Okay. So the term is this, that there's an anti-psychiatry, anti-medicine group out there, and they look at the term of a psychiatric survivor or consumer, that it's a business, the business of psychiatry, and that they're in the this is, and I'm not saying I'm buying into this, I'm saying that this is
out there,
a position that's out there, that the idea is that you can get trapped into a cycle of being a consumer of psychiatric medicines and services that you may or may not need, that it's almost a form of Frankensteinian torture.
Whoa.
And in fact, at one point they called it psychiatric survivors. And now the term has moved on to consumer.
I've heard that recently, being a part of the mental health system as a consumer, or as a caretaker, which is also another term that I'm familiar with. But I like the conversation around progress, particularly when you said, Joel, that you have to sometimes set aside your own idea of what progress is, because I think those of us that do manage our own mental illness have sometimes a very stilted view of our own progress. Now I'm taking it away from outside and bringing it in. There are some days, and we were discussing a little bit earlier about our days, where I may feel that I'm not making any progress whatsoever in this life. And then you have conversations with people that are watching you and interacting with you and watching your behavior, and you realize that perhaps that's not true at all. And sometimes you need other people to let you know how you're doing a little bit.
I can identify with that wholeheartedly. I have a 3.9 GPA at university. I have a paper that's being published in a refereed journal.
Fantastic.
I make it to all my classes. I don't think I've blown any. I think I blew one assignment, actually. That's not true this semester. And if you ask me arbitrarily how I'm doing, I will tell you that some days I'm doing horribly, that I am unable to cope or to function properly. Other days I will tell you, feeling fine. So I don't know the answer is what I'm saying. And so that's absolutely true. But the reason I actually brought the whole idea of consumer in, just to bring that back just for a second, I was sitting in this space with other people, and one person said, "You mean consumer, don't you?" And I actually said, "No, I don't." No, I fought really hard, and there is a system out there. I'm not going to disagree with that, but I am not a wheel within the system. I have fought very hard to get whatever treatment I have. It was very hard to do, the way the system is. And no, thank you. I'm not a consumer. I'm not buying everything that they're selling to me.
Yeah, and that's brave. I just think it's brave to, because again, it is one of the subjects that, yes, we're making progress and having these day-to-day conversations, but then to be able to dig your own heels in and stand your ground and say, this is my view as I see it, as opposed to what maybe the table is saying, or what
medical professionals are saying.
Exactly.
Because we're supposed to not have a voice because we're not professionals.
Yes.
Right? We don't have that kind of clout. And there is still that part of the stigma too, that we shouldn't be able to speak about our illness or what we're going through because we're not active professionals. And that's also a weird thing.
It's and you shouldn't be able to question your psychiatrist and say, I'm not sure about this course of treatment that I'm on.
Interesting, because I have always questioned my therapists and psychiatrists.
Good.
And I know one of them, for example, wanted to try me on a certain medication, and I was frightened of it, and I said to him, I am very frightened of this particular medication. He said, what are your fears? I explained to him. He said, you are completely rational. This is a scary medication. I said, well, I accept that. So he said, so are you going to take it? And I said, hell no. And there are people will hear me talk sometimes when I'm having in low ebb, when I'm having a flare up, and they will say, well, you should try antidepressants. Well, I understand that I could try them without even asking me if I have tried them or not. And the answer is I have tried them, and I have terrible reactions to them. I get manic when I take Prozac. Last time I took Prozac was 10 years ago. I borrowed a friend's credit card, rented a car, drove it to Scranton, Pennsylvania, picked up an acquaintance. We drove down to Kentucky. From there, ditched the car. We did ditch it finally, though, at the rental place, so that was good. And then continued on to Tennessee. I'm never taking that medication again. You have to understand. And this is a side effect.
Yes. Wow. Getting down to Tennessee is a side effect that may happen.
They never put that on the jar.
No, it's too long.
Exactly. But they never. The point being that you don't think that, well, what side effect? It felt like I was doing the right thing the entire time, because that's what mania is.
Yes.
And I'd never been manic in my life up until then, and so I was feeling great. I was real good,
You're flying to Tennessee. Great.
Flying. I was driving. We were driving. What you do is you go to Pennsylvania, and then you can cut through to, was it New York State? You go south from there. It's New York State. You cut through to Pennsylvania. You go through Pennsylvania, and you can cut through to Kentucky. Kentucky, you go straight south, and you're in Tennessee.
And this was just a spontaneous road trip.
I would say it was not even a road trip. It was, I don't know what it was.
A drive.
It was. I was taking these pills. I met somebody on the internet. We were talking. I said, let me pick you up in a couple hours.
Wow.
That's awesome.
This is somebody I didn't even know.
Wow. Joel. And your whole body was saying, yes,
this is the right thing to do.
Wow.
I didn't need to sleep. It was amazing. And some days to have studying for a test, I go, how do I get that mania back? Don't do it, by the way. Don't do the mania. It's not good.
No.
But the point is that, and this is a medication that I was given by a licensed professional. So yes, it's awesome, and yes, it's amazing. And on the other hand, no.
Not for you.
Not for me. And this is an antidepressant. Well, it worked as an antidepressant. That's all I can say. But other antidepressant drugs make me so morbidly depressed that I have no spoons, that I can't move, that I literally cannot get out of bed. That, if I take them, and the problem is this, that, again, and this is physicians want to treat all depression
the same way,
as if it's the same thing, the same way, exactly, thank you. And it's not. Some depression is caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain. Some depression is caused by what's going on in your life right now. Some depression is caused because you have PTSD. And those three kinds of depression have to be treated differently.
And I couldn't stress that word more, so let's say it again. Differently. Because when you think about in my case, I have a chemical imbalance. So
I've always liked that about you.
It's made me special.
In the Olympic sense.
Yes, exactly. But there have been trial and error over the past 30 years for a lot of the same reasons that you're talking about. Side effects are for everyone. There is no one escapes unscathed. It's just finding.
Dare we say
Cymbalta,
right?
Right. So you need to find a balance for sure. But well, I just want to thank you for coming and sharing your story with us and talking with us afterward. And we don't want to let the opportunity go without you telling the listeners if you've got anything coming up, Joel, or where to find you, follow you.
Well, first of all, I work with a story collective in Toronto called DARE, and we produce storytelling shows once a month on the last Wednesday of every month at the Ossington, which is a pub at Ossington and Queen area. We also have a Tuesday night workshop where it's the last Tuesday of every month, where we're not a typical workshop. It's a collective sense, and so bring a notepad and that's all. And we believe honestly that you're the genius when it comes to your story. And our job is to help you midwife that.
Very cool.
Beautiful. Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you want to join the conversation, and we hope you do, come find us on Twitter and Facebook. And you can subscribe to us on iTunes and SoundCloud. That's it, Stigma Fighters. And remember, your story isn't over yet, and we want to hear it.